Hey everybody, Konachi here. Welcome back to Formula 1 2018 for the Mexican Grand Prix. Starting in P2, if there's no penalties dealt out before the race. Feeling really good about that, and looking forward to a good race today here in Mexico. Trying to undo some of the very minor damages done back at Coda.
Formula One may have been absent from Mexico for 23 years, but after 2015's triumphant return, it was as if we'd never been away. In Mexico, a Grand Prix is more than just a race. It's a celebration of speed and of bravery. There's nothing quite like the atmosphere in the stadium today. They'll be drowning out the cars with their noise as they make their way through on lap one. We're a long way above sea level here in Mexico today, which could pose some cooling issues for the cars as they make their way around this 2.6-mile lap. 17 corners with top speeds in excess of 220 miles per hour, and watch out for potential overtaking into turns 1 and 4. With me today, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Let's talk about Ferrari. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. Sebastian Vettel has a clear track ahead of him today. He starts in pole position, and Red completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Hamilton, Daniel Ricciardo, and Perez, Magnussen, Sainz, Alonso, and Esteban Ocon, Verstappen, Stroll, Charles Leclerc, and Gasly, Raikkonen, Hülkenberg. They've taken a grid penalty. Sergei Sirotkin and Stoffel van Dorn, Ericsson, and Brendan Hartley rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Only 3 races left. You still have a chance at the title, but we're going to need some special performances. See what you can
I think
do.
we would need everybody in front of us to crash out of all of the races. Alright, so this is looking like they want it to be a 2-stop race. Anytime we've ever done a 2-stop race, it's really screwed us. However, I hesitate to think there is an alternative here. I'm gonna look at it. And see. So if I hit F6, nothing happens. I'm just curious if there is like a button to just delete a stint. No. Remove stint is F2. Yeah, it's really dumb that you can't do that. This whole system's actually kind of silly. I was curious about trying the supers for the rest of the race. It would mean we'd have to go a lap or 2 longer, probably a lap longer on the hypers, but it doesn't look like they are giving us any indication that that would be possible. See how far down that graph is getting? Very, very likely. Very, very unlikely, I should say. So I think we're probably going to have to stick with the 2-stop strategy. If there happens to be a safety car early, then I will try to push for a 1-stop. If there's any opportunity I could extend the first run on the hypers to lap, say 11, 12, somewhere in that range, then maybe. But without that, I don't see much opportunity for us. Alright, well, we'll have to hope that the AI have similar tire wear. We showed that we had good tire wear, so there shouldn't be any better strategies available that they're just not giving us. But we shall see, and we shall see when we head to the race. I'm not a big fan of where we're positioned on track. Vettel didn't get away very well. I'm going to sneak right behind him, go to Rich Mix. Let's hope that this draft pulls us away from the rest of the field. And maybe up next to him. He went to the outside there to cover me. That was very smart on his part. But at least we did cover the rest of the field with that. Okay, nice, nice. That's a good getaway. It's a really hot start. I was pleased with that. I think Vettel just didn't get away very well. So perhaps a little bit better by me, and I could have gotten around him, but that car is fast. There's no keeping up with him. Honestly, I think we've out-qualified our car's pace by about 4 positions today. So I'm looking for this first stint, to be rough. We may fall back down the order a little.
Okay, now stay alert for threats around you.
I'm alert. I did some practice today in race trim with fuel on board, because that's typically been a problem for me here, and it is indeed a problem for me here. I just don't seem to have a lot of pace with a bunch of fuel on board here. Okay. We're in a little bit of a gap right now to relax. Let's go down to mode 3. DRS management is very difficult here, and I'm not particularly great at managing it, to be honest. So that's another thing we're up against. This is one of those places where a DRS adjustment knob would be super helpful. Having to cycle between them is a bit too difficult to do at speed here. I'm going to be super aggressive on curbs today, especially in this early sector. Why do I keep saying sector? Early stint, because I just don't feel like we have a lot of speed in the car right now. On a heavy fuel load. You can see how much of this track, it breaks my brain. I'm very, very focused on driving here. Showed through in qualifying too, where we had the abysmal...
Race officials have enabled DRS. DRS is now available.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, we had that abysmal lap where I was trying to talk about not what I was doing, basically. Shows this is it's a very, very tough track for a driver. A lot of mental focus. I see that white dot not terribly far behind us in the field there. Only behind one of the Force Indias. It's not too bad. Both the Red Bulls? Yeah, ahead of both Red Bulls. Could be a nice day for the team. Okay, that's a bit too much curb. It's slippery out there. Gotta be easy with it. I'm surprised how much I still see of Vettel, to be honest. In my experience, my tires are going to go a lot sooner than his, and in fact, I may end up short-pitting this first stop if they really seem to be going. I think we were scheduled on 9? I may come as early as 7, depending on the field. I don't want to come out in a bunch of traffic either, though. We'd have to gap the field a lot for that to be plausible. That second sausage is not great to hit.
Vehicle is looking really good. You're managing it well.
I haven't managed it at all, but thanks. It's a bit wide. But I get a very good exit out of there. If it weren't for this section here, I think I'd be in big trouble versus a lot of these other cars. This is the section where this car goes, ah, okay, I know what I'm doing. And then it gets down into here and it's like, ah, what is this? So make a very poor autocross car. Times are falling. These tires are going away.
Behind is 5.3 seconds.
Not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. Love to see him put some pressure to those Mercedes. That would be cool. I went the wrong way. I wanted to save battery power, not use it. A real awkward set of turns this is. I'm being kind of hard on... Whoa, buddy! Rear tires, where have you gone? That's what I was worried about. Yeah, there was a severe lack of rear grip into there. I had to basically take an emergency line just to keep the car on track. Alright, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to try and scoot brake bias forward a touch. Try and... That's the wrong thing, Tom. Try and...
The gap to the leader is 3.4 seconds.
take some heat out of the rears. 'Cause I'm thinking that on the brakes we're overheating those rear tires again. And we're not under direct pressure right now, so I don't think I need all that rear bias. The rear bias is really to get the emergency braking in. Or to get qualifying pace in. But on an average lap, that you're not under pressure, you don't really need that much rear bias because you're not being that aggressive with the brakes. So we'll see if maybe that helps calm those rear tires down a bit. Well, it was much better through here this time. It's a little dancy though. A little dancy. It's getting antsy. Yeah, you can see it. It's carrying the rear around into the turns rather than the rear following it. And that's such a vicious cycle. Because now, every time it slides, 105 degrees to the rears now. Every time it slides, it's going to make it worse.
Approaching the pit window, you'll be on the ultra softs. The gap to the car behind is 2.0 seconds.
Okay, I gotta cool down here. I gotta try and focus and get 2 more laps out of this thing at least. If Botas has to slide by us for that to happen, then oh well. It's just really important that I try to make it to that pit stop on these tires and not have to pit too early. This field is much too bunched together yet to be short pitting. We will get mired in traffic. Probably the most frustrating thing about driving these cars is how dramatic the tire fall off is and how your competitors never have that happen. I've never once seen the AI like overheat their tires and suddenly lose grip. Anywhere near the level that we do. Okay. I had to guess he's gonna pass us on DRS here. I don't think anybody's gonna be pitting this lap, but probably the next. But I don't know when Magnussen plans on pitting either. Should be something you could ask the team. I'd really love to make it to my scheduled stop. Ideally. Probably gonna dive for it right here. Frankly, I'm very surprised he did not. Just trying to be super smooth with my inputs. Smooth with the steering, smooth with the throttle. Don't get back to the gas too soon out of here. Nice and smooth. This is where our car excels a little bit. I'm going to try and be a little easier on it right there. Very easy. Okay, he will for sure pass us on DRS here. All I gotta do is
In this lap,
sneak into
push
his
now.
draft and let it tow me down the straightaway. There we go. Save some battery power doing it. One of the weird things with Mexico is when you get DRS there, you also get it here, which kind of like, I don't know, it kind of cancels out any passing opportunities or repassing opportunities. There's no pass back. And maybe they do that because it's just too close, and they're worried that if you completed the pass, you just get passed back. It was easy for me to say. Being very liberal with my curve usage right there. Trying to be easy on the tires.
Okay, remember to pit this lap. Our gap behind is 3.5 seconds.
That ain't too shabby. Let's see if Botas pits this lap. I don't know who's got priority on that team right now. He does not. That's good for us. Might we get a little undercut on him there? We shall see. A few cars peeling off here. The field is a little bit more spread out now, so we shouldn't get mired in too much traffic, I don't think. That's looking pretty good. There's a pack that we don't want to be in, that we're getting released into.
Stay clear of the white line on the exit. We'll receive a penalty for dangerous driving if you cross over into the track.
They are pretty decently spread out, though, so hopefully I can pick them off one at a time, need be. But they should be pitting this lap, I would presume. If I can pass any on DRS right here. Ah, they all have it. Let's save battery power so we can use it once we get around them all. This is definitely going to cost us a little bit of time.
Increased DRS deployment. It's time for the charge.
Okay, that was a very good message. Come on, car. Come on, car. Boy, he's just on pit road now. Okay. Oh, that was close to contact. The good news is we're about to get some DRS right here, and I think they're going to pit. Yep.
Kevin is in the pits.
Beautiful. All right. Hopefully we do indeed get DRS right now. Yes. Come on, car. Maximum power. Come on, there's no way! Why is this closing brake so slow? That's unbelievable! Alright, we'll get the DRS again here. What is the horsepower difference between these two cars? Holy! On DRS, on maximum power, on the full straightaway length, still couldn't outpace him at the end of the straightaway. Unbelievable. I refuse to believe it. I'm still within fighting distance, though. We managed to get to our full run length in the first stint.
Right, the car ahead has come in to put on the ultra soft tyre. Car ahead is now running ultra softs.
Draft. Mode 4. Rich. Still. Unbelievable. Oh, he locked him up. Pressured him into a lockup. That's the best thing that could have happened for us. Whew, that's a relief.
is 6.7 seconds.
That is a big relief for us. Are we done with him? Probably not, but at least we got around him for now. The car is starting to come around to me. It's still not perfect. I think it's not going to be till the last stint that it really shines. I really wish there was an option to throw hypers on at the end. I guess that's a strategy I should have considered, was hyper, super hyper. But I think we might have needed to use these ultras at some point in the race.
The distance to the leader is 11.7 seconds.
No, actually, it would have been it would have been one of the two. So that would have been an acceptable strategy, but probably a little bit more risky, risque. Not safe for Tumblr. Still a lot of race left. So I'll try and settle into a rhythm. Bottas is certainly much closer to us this run than he was last. Which is a small problem for us. Means we're under pressure for more of the run. Doing great at my battery management. This track's just too darn busy. It's hard to think about it. I guess Alonso started on ultras. Seemed that way. Take some deep breaths. It's calm right now, but I have a feeling the action's gonna pick up again by the end of this tire stint. Where are we gonna catch Alonso here? Something to consider. To kind of retouch on the subject of, you know, why I'm into F1, how did I get involved into it or start following it. This part of it is a big part of it too, the strategy. There's a lot more interesting strategy that tends to happen in F1 than a lot of other forms of motorsports. I don't know really why that is, but it certainly ups my interest in it. I don't want him to get my draft. If possible. This season, or last season of Real F1, felt like we were maybe missing some of that. There wasn't a lot of the crazy strategy calls, strategy 1 races and whatnot. But they were certainly there. There was some cases of it, and I always enjoyed that part of it. And I think that's probably the thing that's more predominantly taken over for me with my interest to F1. I feel much more into the run of the race, the strategy, the calls that were made, and the undertaking, all that kind of stuff. A little bit more than, you know, the actual cars and development there and that kind of stuff. As the cars have kind of lost relevance to me. I don't find them to be as iconic of machines as they once were. But there's still something that's part of F1 that I just ultimately love and enjoy. so I still stay with it. Sometimes it's hard to explain to newer F1 fans, like, what it is that is the reason that we like F1, because it's not always the same. Whereas games like football, maybe they do evolve and change over the years. I feel like the fundamentals of it are pretty much the same all the time. Formula One has very different eras to it. There are eras in Formula One that are just completely different from every other era. It's basically like watching a completely different series. So to say you're an F1 fan means that you're pretty well bought into the fact that what you like now may not be what the sport is in years to come. But I do think a lot of hostility comes out of that. People get so nostalgic for a particular era, and I think it's a lot of the times, you know, the era that you watched or you got into Formula One is the era that gets ingrained into your brain, and that's the only era you want, and you just keep looking for that. But that's not how the formula of Formula One works. It's got to be constantly shifting and changing and evolving. Otherwise, the formula part of it really just goes away. I always think it's weird that the feeder series for F1 get called like F2 or F3, because they're really not. They're not Formula One style cars, Formula One style builds being done in a different way or a lesser way. They're for the most part more spec-driven cars developed to show driver talent and skill. I guess the problem is, to have something like Formula One, you have to have basically infinite budget, or nearly. And let's stroll out of the race. And when you start to say you want to make an F2, but you want it to be something slower, and you want it to be something, you know, more easily accessible for new driver talent, or let's say for new teams. Let's say Formula 2 was there to try to get new manufacturers into Formula 1. The problem is, if Volkswagen Audi Group decided... Hold on. Where is this? Okay, he's over at the wall. All is well. Yeah, let's say Vag wanted to get into Formula 1, and they wanted to use Formula 2 to get there, to like be a benchmark, a step in the ladder. The problem is they're going to outspend everybody to do it, and they are going to wipe the competition of, say, a privateer manufacturer that wants to get involved or is involved in it. Even like your Delarans.
3.3 seconds.
So a Formula 2 concept just doesn't really work. And that's part of what, to me, makes Formula 1 special. So when I hear people say, you know, we need to have spending caps and such in Formula 1, I get a little nervous about it, because I wonder if it will be, you know, the same, or is it just going to turn into F2 with faster cars? Because that's certainly not the same to me. It wouldn't have the same appeal. There's a hell of a battle going on behind us, by the way. Do you see that group of cars behind Bottas? That was messy. It's been a really good stint. 3.4 to Bottas. I have a feeling as we get to maybe lap 21-ish, Bottas is going to start to close that gap. Magnussen's, I think, sitting in
Approaching the
5th.
pit window. You'll be on the ultra softs.
Okay. Money is a big deal with racing, and money management. And it's always been there. That's always been the case since the dawn of racing, basically, is big pockets win big prizes. It's certainly part of it. Technical relevance is another kind of cornerstone to Formula One. And I don't even know entirely where that came from. It was almost a byproduct. You know, in the heyday of F1 tech development, when it first started to get, you know, really crazy and carbon fiber was first getting introduced, or even like electronic fuel injection started getting involved, even to the crazy extremes of like methanol injection getting involved and alternative fuels getting used. At the heyday of that stuff, an accidental byproduct of that was that we got real-world tech out of it. But I don't think that was necessarily the goal at that point. It wasn't like, you know, we really want to develop these carbon fiber monocoques for our street cars. Let's use Formula One as a development tool for that. No, it was, hey, you know how we might be able to be the fastest car in Formula One this year? I heard of this stuff called carbon fiber. And then, you know, the development of, you know, carbon fiber technology, that's just a byproduct of that. Not at all saying that, you know, carbon fiber is necessarily an F1 byproduct, but in automotive terms, it partially is. It's also an aerospace industry thing. Are we putting this lap or next? Next. I'm a bit worried because the tires feel skaty. Yeah, I just felt very nervous through there this time. Like I predicted, Botas is closing. Easy. It does not feel good. I did not say remember pit this lap, so I think it's next.
Vettel is in the pits.
Oh. Well, then I should have pit this lap.
Box. We're coming in this lap.
Alright, Botas did not pit yet either. Hopefully we'll be okay. Oh wow, Vettel's out on supers? That's odd. Oh, I see.
Kevin is in for his stop.
Oh, Kevin had to pit this lap. Understandable then. Yeah, this is playing out almost exactly to the last stint, where by the last lap of the run, Botas had gotten to us. Last time he never got around us. I don't know about this time. I think the last stint is shorter, so hopefully the tires won't be as bad at the end. But that might set up for an interesting situation at the end of the race. Easy with it here. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Box this lap, please.
Well, since you said please, that's alright. Here we go. Boy, that... Okay, bye, pylon. It actually got loose on me on pit entry. That was scary. It's gonna be real close here. Hopefully we don't get screwed with our pit stop. Somebody noted, it seems like I've been losing time on pit road. And losing positions there. Part of that is because we
Pit strategy complete.
didn't negotiate for the fastest pit stops. We didn't negotiate to have development in our pit team for the sake of getting car development. That may change for next season depending how close we are to the top. The sign's here in the middle. That's good for us. I imagine he's on older tires. get dispatched of pretty quickly. I don't know what I've done differently today, but I've managed to take drinks without the Tri-Pi-R freaking out. Ooh, he's still behind him. Oh, that works out quite beautifully for us. And this is when I think our car is really going to start to come into its own. Unfortunately, it's never going to catch Vettel, who's, I think, 30 seconds ahead.
Okay, gap to leader, 19.3 seconds.
Alright, 19. That's still more gap than we'll make up. Interesting that Botas is on supers here. What does he know that I don't? Or are they just out of ultras? Did they use their ultras in qualifying and don't have another set of supers? Or don't have another set of ultras, so they have to use supers? I don't know. I don't know what the deal is there. Or this is going to be the better tire at the end of the race.
Let's use some of this energy. Increase the ERF at the moment.
Why does he always have to give messages right there? Where obviously the radio doesn't work. I get it, Codemasters. You have a radio breakup feature. It's very cute. Bumpy, bumpy, bumpy. I'm using a ton of anti-roll bar in the car. I wonder if that's why it takes the bumps so bad.
The gap to the car ahead is 3.6 seconds.
Oh, we're the only ones on ultras. That's a bit worrying. That is very worrying, actually. I wonder if I miscalculated the stint length or something? There's still only 11 laps to go. It's a bit odd. It seemed like we split them up 50-50. Like this stint's just as long as the last one. Why the different compound at the end? Very strange. Very, very strange. I mean, yeah, my tires were going off at the end of the last stint. You know what else? I've got to try and save some fuel. That's getting close. Try and do it in places that's safe to do so. We're not really running away from Botas this stint as much as I would like. Or at all. This is worrying. Those supers are actually the better tire for the cars at the end of the race. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Cars are light now. You would think the softest or the softer tire would be more ideal right now than it was in the middle of the race. But boy, he's all over us. Looks like we got a fight on our hands here. I don't know if I'm seeing it right, but I think Magnussen's in fourth. Get everything I can in there. Now we're in better shape on fuel. I'm also trying to be a little easy on the tires. Or they'll be in bad shape for the last lap.
You're losing a small amount of time to the car behind. Keep pushing.
I ruined it. I said that the track tire wasn't getting messed up by the can. Now it did. Losing a small amount of time though, huh? You're a small amount of time, Jeff. It's making me nervous that he's this close. But then I generally have been pulling away through here to cover him. Yeah, I get quite a few car lengths on him right there. Might be just enough to keep us away from getting de-arrested. De-arrested.
Our gap to first place is 20.7 seconds.
That's a good lap. Car's starting to come to life. I think this might be about the lap that the fuel is burnt down enough and the tires have come up enough that it's probably going to be our quickest lap of the race, if I had to guess. Fortunately, I don't have fuel to really use to try for it. That was in a purple first sector.
Peak gap to the car behind it.
I imagine that happened on DRS, though.
2 seconds.
Pretty good run out of there.
Okay, make sure they're slowing down. It seems like there's some kind of problem with their car.
Raikkonen's had an issue. He was pretty far back in the field, so that's not a big deal for us. Purple right there. I'm probably going to regret going through this lap. I just kind of wanted to see if it was possible. Nope. Not without Rich Mix. We did get a nice gap though, so now I can kind of relax a little bit without him right up my butt. At least give it a few laps of relaxation. Try and save a little tire. Car definitely comes into its own at this point of the run. But then, towards the end of the tire life, it really falls off hard. It cliffs. It cliffs, it doesn't hill. Still being pretty aggressive through there. Still sitting purples in that sector. If I ever could get this last sector right, I might actually be decent around this track. I don't think it's going to happen. It looks like our podium dreams are very well alive today. I was a bit worried that they might not be. I didn't think it would be quite this stretched out of a race. I didn't expect the front of the field to get so disconnected, but sometimes it just happens, and that's another thing that's hard to explain to new F1 fans, is that some races are super close and there's tons of strategy and there's, you know, just you don't really know who's going to win the race till the end. Some of them are decided on lap 2. That's just the nature of the beast. That's the way that it goes. That's the way it's always been. It happens, and you just have to accept it. There's so much more going on, though, than just the race for the win. The battle in the mid-pack is important. Seeing the way the cars have developed is important. Watching the way some cars are better in certain areas on the track versus others. That's the stuff that I find interesting. And that's the stuff that gives me, you know, joy in watching F1. It's not just the race for the lead for me. For some people, that's all they want, and that's all that matters to them. And that's okay. but you're probably not going to enjoy F1 as much as some other forms of sport. But there are some races that are just wild, and we get a show. For as much as I
We have 5 laps of fuel remaining.
For as much as I sometimes am harsh on this game for what I think are very valid reasons, the way the races play out and the way that it actually represents what F1 is and is it about, I think it does a fantastic job. It really does put me in the F1 world, even as a non-F1 caliber driver. So, despite the shortcomings that it obviously has, there are things that these games do very well. No other series has a game that is as immersive in the actual, like, career and championship and kind of just the whole world. There are sims that are more immersive in driving. iRacing, you know, for, say, INZA or WC or whatever, way more immersive in driving and competition with multiplayer. But they don't put you in that world. You don't feel like you're an actual IMSA driver or anything. You're just pushed more to your actual driver skill limits. Quite a few laps to go here, and these rear tires are starting to already not feel fantastic. This is where I think Bottas will probably start to close that gap again. Especially if he's on the harder tire this run. His pace is going to stay really consistent, whereas mine will drop off. Okay, deep breath. Yeah, you can see the time is dropping pretty dramatically. I'm not pushing as much as I was for that fast lap. If races like this are any indication of what next season's going to be like, though, as far as championship competition, it's going to be something special. It's going to be close, and that's something I've always been hunting for. It seems like a lot of the time I either have the car that is, you know, decidedly mid-pack but occasionally wins, or I have a car that can nearly dominate. But the idea of having a car that, when pushed to its absolute limits, and if everything goes right, you have the ability to try and push for a championship, that's exciting. That's an exciting scenario to be presented with.
Our gap behind is 4.8 seconds.
One thing I really need to work on this season is the last race. Because Abu Dhabi has always been one of my worst tracks, and I'm already thinking ahead to next season.
We're leading our teammate by 20.0 seconds.
That's a bigger gap than I expected. But yeah, I'm already thinking, like, what if next season came down to, you know, a must-win at the last race, or, you know, a 1-point difference in the last race? That's not going to be good if I really screw up that last race. So I'm going to be putting in a lot of time there, try and make sure I have as good of a season finale as possible. I'm going to prep for next season. Probably tell I'm taking it a lot easier through there now. Okay. accidentally just made this race much tighter. I think I mentioned how much I dislike that turn and how hard it is to see. And that was the case there. I just completely missed the turning point for it and the braking point. I may or may not have been getting a drink. I think we still got this position covered though. I'm not too worried about it. Luckily I didn't like have to spin tires or anything to get it to rotate out of there. I just let it run wide. Don't overdrive it, just keep driving your pace cone. A good run through here, and we will get back to that safe DRS distance. The back end did want to step out on me a bit, but there we go. That's more comfortable. I'm just going to start braking at the start of the curb. The actual braking point is like halfway through that curb, but it's kind of up on a hill, and it's very hard to see. I don't like that I can hear his car. Oh no, I'm short on fuel. When did that happen?
Final lap of the race.
I'll try and save some in the middle sector and we'll be alright. We're exactly right on fuel as of right now. We didn't let him get within DRS range, which is good. Crazy how much power you lose on lean mix. It's very apparent. Should be good. This is our sector. Actually did not nail that, to be honest. So if there's no...
Some information on Raikkonen. They are out of the race.
The last lap he blew up. Oh, that's right, the confetti. Please don't freak out my computer. Please don't freak out my computer. I think we're good. Bit of a drag race here, but we're good. That start-finish line is at a good point.
Top job, my friend, top job. I was a bit worried about this one at the start of the weekend, but you pulled through. Thank you.
Why were you so worried? I was a bit worried on lap like 3 to go
here
there.
They come now out onto the podium. Wherever you go, anywhere in the world, the prancing horse flags are dominant in the grandstands, and they're out in force again today.
Well, we want to change that. We want the prancing
So then,
H
it's time
flags.
to see how this result affects the Drivers' Championship.
Oh, wow.
It's a good result for Sebastian
What
Vettel,
happened,
who
Magnussen?
moves further ahead at the top of the table. And now I'd like to ask you, Anthony Davidson, who was your driver of the day?
Well, after a drive like that, it's got to be Max Verstappen, hasn't it?
As
It's
I
very
figured.
clean, very smooth. He can be really pleased with that one.
And now let's take a look at the constructors' standings.
Oh, nice. Back up to
Ferrari
third.
extend their lead at the top of the championship. Well, what a weekend that has been. Please join us next time for another thrilling instalment of this Formula One season.
Indeed. Indeed. Not the most action-packed of races once again, but I think a worthwhile one nonetheless. Like, I did most of what I wanted and needed to do this race. I'm a little flabbergasted as to how Magnussen ended up losing 2 positions at the end there. Thought we were going to have a 2-4, and we ended up with a 2-6. Still okay. Still positive for next season. And like I said, we did move back up to 3rd in the points with Daniel Ricciardo having a tough day for some reason. 10 points ahead there. That'll be close to end the season out. And I do hope you enjoyed. We'll watch the beginning of the replay, but I don't know that there was too much we desperately need to see there. I do hope you enjoyed, though. That's a tough one for me. That's a long race, and it's a very physical race. It's not only physical, but it takes a lot of, like, mental power. Boy, I spun the tires a bunch, didn't I? Perfectly slotted between the two of them, though. And then, what happens down here? I see. I don't think it's next. Oh, the two Mercedes got together. That saved our butts. That saved our butts right there. Nice. And then from there, it was a big race tire management. And I think that's why it's so exhausting for me, is trying to save tires throughout these races is one of the more difficult things to do. All right. Let's see if there's an interview. And we will close out this Mexico Grand Prix. Only 2 races left to go.
The fans really
This
seem
season.
to enjoy that. You made it look easy.
Sure did.
Everything went your way today. It looked like you had a really good strategy for the race.
Yeah. Sure, this looks great for showmanship.
You're breaking all expectations. What's your secret?
Secret, I'm the best driver on the track. There's no secret.
It looks like you're schooling your rivals at the moment.
Oh, man. That's why he always calls me Sir.
Great. Well, that's everything.
Great. Hey, isn't that neat? I'm being interviewed while also being weighed. All right, everybody, I will see you next time.